to take to start off with?
Okay. Professor Marcus Ford. I'm the chairperson of the Brisbane Flight Path Community Alliance, BFPCA.
Brilliant. And can you tell me your initial reactions to hearing the Deputy Premier Stephen Miles' comments today?
Initial reaction is really that we in essence welcome these kinds of reactions for two reasons. One is every time one of these politicians come up with these kinds of ludicrous utterances, we have a whole new bunch of members signing up to BFPCA. It actually helps us promote our organization and we grow the movement. We've had Catherine King, the federal minister, in her National Press Club address in March already make similar comments, and we increased our membership, and today there's been a lot of activity as well. So we thank Stephen Miles for these comments. But the most important thing really to say here is that these comments just also demonstrate how out of touch he is with this issue. Just to remind Stephen Miles, this is not an issue of inner city elites. We have evidence from Senate estimates processes where Air Services, the government-owned corporation that administers flight paths, has admitted that this issue affects 226 suburbs across Brisbane. So for him to be able to say that this is only something that affects inner city suburbs is very far from the truth. We have people as far out as Upper Brookfield, Samford Valley, the Bayside communities, Redcliffe Peninsula. So those are not inner city communities. They are actually communities that are quite far away, up to 40, 45 kilometers away from the airport. So they're definitely not inner city communities. And they're all affected by this particular issue.
Would you describe his comment as out of touch with the community of Brisbane? Because there are a lot of people who are very concerned about this issue.
It is definitely out of touch. The other thing to add to this is that the Premier has been receiving complaints, and we've been copied into these complaint emails for quite some time now. They go into the thousands. And what Queenslanders are expecting of the Queensland government is for them to take steps in order to liaise with the federal government and try and rectify this injustice. This is about being lied to by Brisbane Airport Corporation and Air Services. They promised that this new runway would enable them to direct flights away from residential areas, but the complete opposite is happening. So to make matters worse and to add insult to injury, what Stephen Miles is now doing is to portray himself as a flight travel agent. So we've seen on his social media how he's heralding the arrival of more and more flights that are all subsidized with Queensland taxpayers' money. The Premier has called this in the news media her aviation war chest, and we think this is entirely inappropriate language to use for issues that is driving people to such distress that Air Services has reverted to contact the Queensland Police Services to conduct welfare checks on some of the people that have sent complaints. So this is giving you just an indication of how severe these kinds of issues are already, and for him to just belittle them in this very condescending manner today is just further evidence of how out of touch this government is, and showing in the polls as well.
If you could say one thing to Stephen Miles, if you were sitting on that panel with him, what would you have said in response to those comments?
I think what we would do is invite Stephen Miles to actually participate in the kinds of community consultation that BFPCA has been offering and providing to the communities over the last 3 years, so that he for himself can actually witness and take notice of the documents, the evidence, and the emotional toll and the mental health toll that this issue has been taking Queenslanders for over 3 years now. If he actually had access to some of this material and he would be able to pay attention and review this material, I think he would probably be very, very careful in the kinds of way he describes the issue that he's done today.
Brilliant. I think that's all I needed from you. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I think we've covered most of it today with regards to Stephen Miles. We're obviously very interested in, as BFPCA, is to see how we can get more and more people to realize that what we are dealing with here is not about noise at all. What we are dealing with here is state capture. We're actually dealing with a system where we have politicians both at the federal level as well as now here at the Queensland state level that have been captured by the aviation industry. And so it's very difficult now to distinguish Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk from a premier or from a travel agent. She's actually doing much more the bidding of Emirates Airlines, Singapore Airlines, and other airlines that have been subsidized. And on her Facebook feed and social media presence, we are really, really wondering to what extent this is justified, considering the welfare and the duty of care that needs to come front and center for the Queensland state government when it comes to be representing and advocating for Queensland residents and citizens.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon, Marcus. We really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you so much, Meg.
Thank you. All right, I'll let you go.
Cheers.